you should be involved with all aspects of site construction, especially if it's from the ground up. If you're doing it from scratch, you should be in at the blueprint stage. The easiest, least expensive time to retrofit a design is before it's built, right? Just makes sense. All of these aspects are all something that the security professionals should take into account. What's standoff distance? What's standoff distance?
Distance between the exterior edges of the building and other structures?
Good. And how far I can keep you away before you're actually stepping onto my property or into my area or sphere of influence. Good. Excellent. Why is parking important? Why is parking important? We're going to talk about garages in a little bit. Parking is important both for personnel access and because people drive large vehicles into it. Have vehicles themselves been used for attacks? Yes. Anyone think of a rather famous example? Two famous examples I can think of off the top of my head.
Oklahoma City.
Good. Anyone else?
And then, I believe New York, World Trade
Center. World Trade Center, first time, 1993, right? They drove that van underneath and blew out that one pillar. Luckily, it fizzled, right? Yeah. Okay, third example, Beirut, Lebanon, blew up the Marines. Yeah. Bad stuff, bad stuff. So we got to pay attention to all these things. And we'll cover aspects of them as we go along. Okay, your objectives, obviously, reduce risks. But you're also trying to approach it from a standpoint of making it aesthetically pleasing architecturally. Why? Why is that important? Anyone ever work for or with EDS? Everybody ever heard of them? Ross Perot's old outfit? Electronic Data Systems. What are they known for? Anyone ever seen any of their facilities, like in Virginia or anything like that? You usually don't see them because they go out of their way to make them impenetrable. They have this paranoia about security. And you can recognize an EDS building because you can't see it. They build these giant earthen berms obscuring the facility from the road. Is that good in terms of security? Perhaps. It sure calls it out like a sore thumb. I mean, you know kind of what's there and that it's being protected highly. It's already bad enough they're sitting in a cubicle, right? You want people to feel protected, but you don't want them to feel incarcerated. There's a happy medium there. You want it to be safe, of course. Would your workspace be very secure if every time there was an intrusion detected, we flooded it with concrete and made sure that it stayed locked down? Yeah, that'd be really secure. You would trap everyone like they were in an ant colony that you had filled with Play-Doh and they would all be smothered. That would not be all that safe. So we have to also get that happy medium as well. And what do we mean when we say hardening physical structures for added security? We're talking about actually physically making them harder?
Of course.
In some cases we are. Actually, yeah. Depending on where you are, and we're going to talk about location threats in just a second, natural disasters may require different kinds of building materials. What are other ways of hardening things without actually physically adding substance to make them harder?
It's just like with a server, reducing the number of input points.
Good, excellent. And we can increase that standoff distance, and we can add other things to it. You can have like bollards out on your curbs to make sure that vehicles can't get close enough to the structure itself. Good. All right. So the first thing you're going to do, like almost everything we do, like the risk assessment, like the business impact assessment, like your security assessment, you're going to do a security survey of the physical location itself as your first step to making sure that you're securing it. You might also call it the risk assessment or the vulnerability assessment from a physical perspective. You're going to look at all the controls in place. You're going to look at the organizational policy, standards. You're going to look at it from a standpoint of employee safety. Again, can we make doors fail secure? No, why not?
Safety.
You got to make them fail safe, right? People got to be able to get out in the event of a fire. Do people die in fires?
Yes.
Yes. What's the most common location for somebody to die in a fire in the building?
Near the exit.
At the exit, right there at the exit point. They become choke points, right? What are your objectives? Define the threats. Find out what the important things are. What are the things you're going to protect? Your targets. And the facility characteristics. What does it have to do and what can it do? Where are those happy mediums? Where's that gray area that you can plan for? These are all great suggestions from the American Institute of Architects. It's a great way to incorporate security in the planning stage, in the design stage. They are wonderful. Are you going to plan every building to look the same? Is every organization going to have the same kind of structures? Of course not. That's all going to be case dependent. It's all going to be based on your processes, on your operations. These are good things to consider. They're on your slide. We don't have to read them. Vulnerability assessment. Again, this has to be in context of what it is you're trying to do, what you want to do, what your operations are. It should not be something that's a one-size-fits-all. Your vulnerabilities are part of your risk appetite. How many vulnerabilities are you going to have? Are you going to try to mitigate all of them? Are there some that are just going to be acceptable? Are you going to keep walking in the woods even though the bear is there, right? Your assessment might aid in identifying what heretofore had not been a critical node. Maybe you'll find something out and said, oh, we didn't think that that was necessary for us to do business, but it turns out it is. We can't do things without that, right? There's a good suggestion to make a matrix, make a table of all these things to figure out where you're going to put your controls. It's nice to be able to tabulate and understand where your value is, and you can add them up. For each criteria that a given structure or given piece of your asset has value, you can add those things up and decide based on a rank score whether or not you should implement more controls on those things. So you're going to plan. You're going to plan out your you're going to plan out your security architecture, and you're going to plan out your physical architecture. The number one thing that you're going to want to protect after you've got your vulnerability assessment, your people. Also your stuff and the way you do business. People comes first all the time, always. From an ethical standpoint, why do people come first? We just talked about ethics yesterday. From an ethical standpoint, why do people come first?
Not replaceable.
Everyone is a delicate individual snowflake, right? Yes, we are all special. Okay, from a business standpoint, why do people come first? Objectively, mechanically, why do people come first?
Not replaceable.
They're not replaceable. They have institutional knowledge that you can't do the operations without. Good. Can we replace them if we have enough time?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so why else? That's a good one. Why else? Why do people come first?
It's expensive.
They're the most expensive component you got. Wow, especially if you're liable. Yeah, they're really, they're not cheap. They're good. That's good. Why else? It's really bad for your reputation to be seen as killing your employees or even maiming them. People don't like that, right? They don't like that. Customers don't like that. They don't want to be party to it. People come first for both an ethical reason and for a simple business reason. It's just good business to not kill your employees. Who knew? Not Monty Burns, right? Always going to be a balance between security and convenience. I would take that a step further. It's always going to be a balance between operations and risk, right? We talked about the most secure system in the world. What is the paramount aspect of the most secure system in the world? What's its most fundamental trait? What's that?
It's not accessible.
It's not accessible, even by users. We have it powered down. It's not functional. So we're always going to make that seesaw decision. Changes in routine explained to employees. What aspect from IT security is that? We talked about that already. What trait is that? What definition is that going to support?
Transparency.
Transparency. Good. They should not be impacted any more than is necessary. And if they are, you should tell them why. You should tell them why. There shouldn't be any great mystery as to why their environment's changing. When you're designing roadways, when you're designing the approach to the structures, don't give a straight run-up so that somebody can get that speed going and they can do a Blues Brothers through the mall, right? Use berms, use curbs, bollards, gates, barriers, trees. Trees are aesthetically pleasing, right? They give shade, birds can roost in them, and they can take a good truck hit, right? Good. CPTED. The problem is I'm not sure how much efficacy it actually has, but it's a nice idea. It's the idealized concept of security. The notion being that you can make the environment discouraging to those who would attack something. It's like playing gentle, soothing music in the supermarket so people are sort of pacified. Again, I'm not sure how well it really works. I don't know if we have any good studies to support it. But that's the concept. That anything that might look like it's a scary security design, you might want to round it out with something else. Might want to put a camera in a bush. Anyone guess what the problem with putting the camera in the bush is?
You can't see anything.
Okay, that may be one thing. The bush is going to grow, right? Why else?
It doesn't discourage people because they don't know the cameras.
Cameras are supposed to be a deterrent, right? Yeah, if they can't see it, it's not really deterring anything, right? Okay. Again, here's some more suggestions to make security less spooky. Make the gates art-like. Maybe instead of just, one of those rails, the guard is raising a long mesh duck in repose. Okay. Open grilled shutters instead of those slatted roller shuttered. Interesting suggestions.